All right, so here we're going to talk about numeracy, which is kind of like the word literacy, okay, where literacy is about reading and writing. Numeracy is about kind of like reading and writing with numbers, okay? So how do you specify quantities? All right, so we've got this old picture with Dr. Goddard again, and he's saying that he's tightened it to 31.4090367 foot-pounds. Okay. And someone is asking if he rounded up too much. Okay. Anyway. So why is that such a strange number? 31.4090367. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about here. So our agenda here is that we're going to talk about why we care about significant figures and units. And we're going to talk about some basic rules for how we figure these things out. We're going to talk about how to add and subtract numbers, dealing with units, and then I'm going to tell you about a worksheet that's in eLearn to help you get really good at this sort of thing, okay? All right, so this lecture is one lecture. I'm going to divide it into 3 parts for you, okay? And so getting all the way to here will be part 1, and then we'll do part 2 there, and then the third part will end like that, okay? So I'm going to try and do it in smaller chunks for you, see if that's a little more manageable for while you're watching videos. Okay, so why do we care? Well, we care for the following reasons, all right? So when you're reporting a number, okay, it could be a measurement that's going into a report. Maybe this is going to end up in a scientific journal. Maybe it's just going to be a decision that some company is going to, some company's going to make a decision based on this number, okay? But why does that matter, okay? Why does it matter? Well, when you give them a number, okay, there is a certain precision associated with that number. And that precision is based on how many Sig Figs, how many significant figures that number has, okay? So if we specify something to 6 inches, you know, we could put our hands up and we could say, oh, 6 inches is about like this right here, okay? Then we might say, well, show me 6.5 inches. And we could, well, maybe we could do something like this. But now show me 6.55 inches. So can you move your fingers 0.05 of an inch more? Okay, probably not. Okay, but you can see there in the picture that, you know, if we keep going, 555, 5555, 55555, all the way to the end, 555, 555, okay, and you can kind of see what happens. By the time we get to our third 5, okay, this distance right down here, okay, that's about the same size as a human hair, okay? So if you're measuring a tabletop with a ruler, would anybody think it was reasonable that you could measure that thing to within the thickness of a human hair, right? Probably not. Okay, but it gets worse as we keep going. So now down here, if you say that specify the length of the table there, now you're talking about a red blood cell. And it gets worse and worse, and eventually you come all the way to the size of an atom. Okay, all the way to the size of the atom. Now, you need to be aware of that because on your calculator, this number down here doesn't look too much different than this number right here. Oops, there, right there. Okay. In fact, the one at the bottom kind of makes you feel like you've done a better job with your calculation. You're calculating like crazy. And you get something, boom, and you're like, oh my God, look at these digits. And you write them all down. Okay. Now, some people are compulsive about writing down every digit their calculator tells you. What I'm going to tell you is, don't do that. It makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. Okay? That's an amateur mistake. Professionals don't do that because a professional knows that if I give you an answer all the way at this level down here, I don't know what I'm talking about because there is no way anybody, anyway, with any device could measure the length of a table to within the width of an atom. That is not possible. It makes you look incompetent. Okay? So when you're giving your numbers, you're communicating the precision of your work. Okay? Don't oversell it. Okay? You need to know what the limits are. If you're measuring something with the tape measure, okay? That's pretty good right there. Okay? That's pretty good right there. There's no reason to report any other number. Okay? You're either, someone's going to think that you're either a fool or that you're lying. Okay? So, for those of you who like to write every digit, back away. Back away. Don't do it. Fight the urge. Okay? Fight that urge. So, now let's talk about Sig Figs here and the rules for how we count them. And the rules are pretty easy, really. What we want to do is we really need to focus in on the zeros. Okay? Where are the zeros in my number? Are they wedged in the middle somewhere? Are they over at the beginning of the number? Or are they at the end of the number? Okay, all these things make a difference where they are. Okay, so let's kind of take a look. In your soft chalk lesson, there's some examples. So I'm just going to show you a quick example here too. All right, let's start with the number 200. All right, so we look right there and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I've got 3 figures, but which of them are significant? Okay, are the zeros significant or not? In other words, should we count them when we're thinking about the precision of our number? All right, and the answer in this case is no, we don't count them. All we count is the 2. All right, because the rest of these are trailing zeros, and we don't care about those in this context. Okay, now what if we changed the number, and what if we made the number into 0.0 like this? Okay, now what does that do? Okay, well, that does a lot, because now all these zeros actually matter. The decimal changes everything. And when it was just 200, we had 1 sig fig. Now we have 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sig figs just like that. Okay. What if we put, we just happen to put a 0 over here? Okay. What does that do? Do we count that 0? And no, we don't count that one. It doesn't matter. That was just silly. Okay. Now we could have something like this. Boop. Okay. Now how many sig figs do I have? Well, let me erase some stuff here. Okay. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sig figs there. Okay. What if I add another 0 on the end here? What does that do? Well, you guys probably figured out that bumps us up to 7 sig figs. Okay, and so on, just like that. Okay. Now, a couple of things where it can get weird. All right. Let's go back to my original number 200. Okay. What if I make my measurement and I actually know that this 0 right here matters? What if I made my measurement and it just happened? I mean, it could have been 199. It could have been 201. If it was 199, I got 3 sig figs. If it's 201, I got 3 sig figs. But what do I do with 200? Because I know it's still 3 sig figs. All right. Well, I've got options. Okay. So let me get rid of those 199 and that. There we go. Okay. My options are, the easiest way is I can just put a dot right there. Okay. If I put a dot right there, everybody's going to know that that's what that means. It means that that last 0 matters. It's significant. So I've got 3 significant figures there, and the last one happens to be 0. Okay. That's one way to do it. Now, that can be awkward. What if you're writing out, you've got a sentence and it ends, and it's the very end of the sentence. All right. And my sentence with 200. Boom. Now, what does that mean? Okay. Let me get rid of this guy right here. It's still significant, but is that dot the end of my sentence? Or, so it's only 1 sig fig, or does the dot mean it's 3 sig figs? Okay. There's some ambiguity there. Now, there's different ways to deal with that ambiguity. Okay. And at that point, it kind of depends on the publication or the context. All right. But what you could do is you could put a little underline here. Okay. And then people will know, oh, okay. So it is 3 sig figs and not just 1. Okay. So that would be one way to do it. In a different context, you might maybe put a little squiggle on top, something like that. Okay. So you provide your audience with a way of knowing that it's 3 sig figs instead of 1. Okay. All right. So this is the end of part 1. Okay. And when we come back in part 2, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, and how we deal with sig figs in those contexts. Okay. Be right back.